Imagine cruising in a car that looks like it's built for speed, roaring down the highway with power. But here's the catch. It's not as fast as it seems. Today, we're diving into 10 muscle cars that looked fast, but weren't always the speedsters they appeared to be. These cars captured hearts with their bold designs and rebellious spirit, symbolizing freedom and American pride. But did they live up to the hype? Let's find out. Number 10. Buick GSX 1970. Let's start with a muscle car that looks like it could rule the streets but doesn't quite pack the punch you might expect. The Buick GSX is a prime example of a car that had the looks to impress, but the performance that didn't quite match. With its bold lines, wide stance, and that powerful 455 cubic inch V8 engine, it looked like a beast ready to take on any challenger. But here's the twist. Despite the impressive engine and sporty design, the GSX didn't always dominate on the track, like other muscle cars of its time. In fact, it was considered more of a cruiser, stylish, smooth, but not quite the speed demon you'd hope for. Yet the GSX has become one of the most iconic muscle cars out there. Why? Because it represents the essence of American muscle, the freedom to look powerful, even if you're not always racing for the finish line. The GSX wasn't just about speed, it was about swagger, luxury, and making a statement. Speaking of statements, let's move on to a car that also made its own statement, but didn't always back it up with speed. The Oldsmobile 442. Number 9. Oldsmobile 442, 1964. The Oldsmobile 442, a name that carries weight in the muscle car world. The 442 came with big V8 engines and an aggressive design, making it look like it was built for raw power. The performance, however, wasn't always on par with its striking appearance. Despite the 442's bold presence and impressive engine options, it wasn't the fastest car on the road, nor did it handle as sharply as some of its competitors. But here's the thing, the 442 was made for cruising. It offered a smooth, powerful ride without the brutal acceleration of other muscle cars. It became an icon for those who loved the muscle car style and luxury, without necessarily needing the raw speed. Now imagine another muscle car that was more about elegance and less about raw horsepower. Let's talk about the Pontiac Firebird. Number 8. Pontiac Firebird, 1967. When you think of the Pontiac Firebird, you might picture it tearing through the streets, aggressive, fast, and ready for action. But while the Firebird's design screamed power, its performance didn't always match up to the hype. With its stunning long body, sleek lines, and those famous quad headlights, it was an absolute head-turner. However, the Firebird's performance often fell short, especially in its early years. Sure, it came with a V8 engine, but it didn't deliver the blistering speed that you might expect from such a powerful-looking car. Still, it captured hearts with its cool and rebellious aura, and it quickly became a symbol of Pontiac's bold engineering. Now imagine a car that didn't just look fast, felt fast in every curve. Let's dive into the Chevy Chevelle SS7. Chevy Chevelle SS 1970. The Chevy Chevelle SS was built for speed, or at least it looked like it was. With its wide body, aggressive front grille, and powerful engine options, this muscle car made a statement on the road. But despite all that muscle car attitude, the Chevelle SS didn't always deliver the raw power you'd expect. Sure, it had a big block V8 engine, but it lacked the handling and acceleration to compete with other cars of the era. The Chevelle SS was more about the image, the muscle car lifestyle, than outright speed. Its roar was loud, but its bite, not always as sharp as its looks. From one classic to another, let's talk about a muscle car that has a similarly bold presence, the Dodge Challenger. Number 6. Dodge Challenger, 1970. The Dodge Challenger, arguably one of the most iconic muscle cars ever made. The aggressive design, wide tires, and massive body make this car look like it's ready to race at any moment. However, here's the reality check. While the Challenger looked fast, it didn't always deliver the speed you might think it should. Sure, it offered V8 options, but the basic models were far from the performance monsters that its looks promised. Despite this, the Challenger became a symbol of rebellion, freedom, and strength. It didn't matter if it wasn't the fastest, it still ruled the road with that undeniable muscle car swagger. Now let's move on to a muscle car that was known for its sleek design and bold looks, introducing the Ford Torino Cobra. Number 5. Ford Torino Cobra, 1969. The Ford Torino Cobra came with an aggressive design and a big V8 engine, making it look like it was meant to tear up the road. But here's where it gets interesting. Despite that roaring V8, the Torino Cobra didn't quite deliver the speed that would put it in the same league as some of its contemporaries. The performance just wasn't there compared to what its looks promised. But the Torino Cobra was never just about speed. It was about making a statement, about looking the part. The Cobra's design screamed muscle, and that's exactly what made it a legend, even if it wasn't the fastest muscle car on the block. Now let's take a look at another car that made an even bolder statement. The Chevrolet Camaro Z28. Number 4. Chevrolet Camaro Z28. 1967. The Chevrolet Camaro Z28 looks like it's built for speed, sleek, low, and ready to take off. The aggressive stance and sharp body lines give it an unmistakable speed demon look. But here's the kicker. It didn't always back up that look with the performance you'd expect. Though equipped with a 302 cubic inch V8, the Z28 often lacked the acceleration and speed that muscle car fans were craving. It was more about the visual appeal, and the name it became a symbol of American performance, even if it didn't always deliver the raw horsepower of its competition. Speaking of performance, let's transition to another classic muscle car, the Plymouth Barracuda. Number 3. Plymouth Barracuda, 1964. The Plymouth Barracuda was built with speed in mind, but did it deliver? With that iconic fastback design and wide rear end, it looked like a car that could beat anything on the street. However, the Barracuda's engine options were a bit of a letdown. The base model was slow, and even the V8 options didn't always pack the power expected from a muscle car. Still, the Barracuda became a symbol of American muscle. It wasn't the fastest, but it was certainly one of the most stylish, and it represented the rebellious spirit of the times. And speaking of rebellion, let's talk about the 1965 Ford Mustang Fastback, a true icon of the era. Number 2. Mercury Cougar, 1967. The Mercury Cougar's sleek, elongated design made it appear faster than it was. The quad headlights, long body, and aggressive front grille were made to grab attention. But in terms of pure performance, the Cougar didn't always back up its looks. With a range of engine options, the top-tier models were underwhelming compared to some of its competitors. It was a beauty for sure, but not always a speedster. The Cougar's allure lay in its luxury and style, while its real power was more about looks than speed. Number 1. 1965. Ford Mustang Fastback. The Ford Mustang Fastback is arguably one of the most iconic muscle cars in history. Its long hood, aggressive stance, and sleek fastback roofline made it look like it could take on the world. But the reality? Despite its V8 engine, the Mustang Fastback wasn't the performance powerhouse some expected. It was more about the look, the style, and the cultural impact it made. The Mustang became a symbol of freedom, rebellion in the open road. While it may not have always been the fastest car on the block, it was certainly one of the most important cars in American history. And speaking of cars that might have fooled you with their speed, let's go back to our first car, the Buick GSX. So there you have it, the 10 muscle cars that looked like they could destroy the streets, but didn't always back up that performance. These cars represented more than just raw speed. They were symbols of rebellion, pride, and the freedom to drive something that turned heads. But don't go anywhere, because in our next video, we'll explore how you can take one of these iconic rides and modify it into the ultimate performance machine. Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button, because the muscle car journey is just beginning. And that's a wrap on our list of muscle cars that looked fast, but didn't always deliver the speed we expected. These iconic rides may not have been the fastest on the road, but they left a lasting mark on car culture, symbolizing freedom, rebellion, and pure American pride. But don't go anywhere. If you're ready to learn how to make these cars faster, we've got a brand new video coming up about muscle car modifications you won't want to miss. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on more awesome content. And let us know in the comments, which of these cars do you think still deserves the crown as the ultimate muscle car? See you in the next video. Keep those engines roaring.